Never actually looked to see if it was all 200 that were bound in it in chains. So that could be an error, but I'm just taking a stab in the dark. Nevertheless, their children, which numbered in the millions at the time, the Nephilim, they were not bound. Now, granted, many of them were wiped out on the flood. And when I say many of them, millions, many of them were wiped out because those became the disembodied spirits, the demons that are in the world today. So the Watchers in Enoch is described how the fallen ones were cast into the deep, a fiery place of torment, sealed within the earth until the day of judgment. Yet their hybrid offspring, those spirits, became known as evil spirits, demons, and were left to wonder. Some of them, however, found refuge in the subterranean cities and regions, continuing their perverse rule in secret. And that is why nearly every ancient civilization, from the Sumerians to the Egyptians to the Indians to the Mesoamerican, speaks of their demigods, kings who came from below, ruled for a time, then returned to the underworld, promising to rise again in the final age. Modern archaeology and anthropology offer startling confirmations when it comes to this. When I was researching this topic, I found enormous amounts of reports, accounts, and real pictures of these giant skeletons found in deep caves, massive subterranean dwellings beneath South America, beneath Turkey, beneath China, beneath Russia, and Grand Canyon in the United States, several places. These are massive underground cities stretching thousands of miles. Thousands of miles. One of the most prominent and well-known is in Cappadocia, Turkey. This is a prime example. This underground city was discovered accidentally in the 1960s. But this city could house over 20,000 alone. It extended 18 stories underground, complete with ventilation shafts, food storage, livestock chambers, fortified stone doors. Like, what was really crazy was when I was looking at the pictures in the video, the stone doors were built very similar to the stone door they used to seal Christ's burial chamber. And if you understand what I'm saying, there was like a channel in the ground carved, and this enormous round stone that rolled in the channel. And you could roll it and seal off the door, and when you open it, you rolled it back. Who built these structures? And why were they designed to protect entire populations underground? Across the entire world, indigenous traditions speak of great wars between surface dwellers and underground beings. One of the most prominent ones is the Hopi Indians. Talks of an ancient people who saved their ancestors by taking them into the earth. The Cherokee Indians speak of a reptilian race who lived beneath the Smoky Mountains. In the Himalayas, ancient lamas speak of a Shambhala, a city beneath the peaks where advanced beings dwell. watching the surface world. In South America, legends of the Chacanas, a deep underground forbidden city in the Andes that warn of beings below who enslave the topside dwellers. See, guys, these are not fairy tales. These are documented accounts, encoded memories of a truth mankind has been forced to forget. Forced. Today, high-level whistleblowers are confirming the governments and militaries have not only discovered these places, but actively occupy and interact with them. One example is Lieutenant Colonel Greg. He was coming on the show tonight, but he'll most likely be on tomorrow night. He actually worked in these deep underground military bases that are real. The United States alone, just the United States, have been told, just this is what they admit to. Who knows the real number? But what they admit to is 130 deep underground military bases, all connected with high-speed tunnel systems, trams, magnetrains. These tunnels, these magnetrains, stretch the entire span of the globe. 1.1 million miles of tunnels. They stretch beneath mountain ranges, beneath deserts, and even beneath the oceans. One whistleblower, a guy named Phil Schneider, a former government contractor, worked about the same time as Dr. Thrapp. For those of you, Dr. Thrapp has been on the show, and there's a reason why Dr. Thrapp lives outside of our country, which I can't get into. But he has also talked about this, but Phil Schneider was one of the first prominent whistleblowers. He publicly testified before his mysterious death that he had worked on the construction of many of these bases and had encountered many times non-human entities. If you guys have not seen Phil Schneider's accounts and testimonies, they're pretty chilling. I mean, this guy has documented evidence, and not only in photographs and documented reports, but physically you can look at him. He's missing limbs, like only has 3 fingers on one hand from a actual engagement, firefight that he got into. He talked about these non-human entities, some benevolent, but most hostile. Same report that Lieutenant Colonel Greg gave. Living in the deep, 7 miles underneath the ground. He was later found unalived under very suspicious circumstances. They labeled it, he unalived himself. But what's interesting, evidence suggests otherwise, but he also warned weeks in advance on live programs that if he was found unalived, to make sure everyone knew he would never do that. His documented claims, which many have claimed that, they were extreme and conspiracy, but there are documentation and there's proof. They align perfectly with the reports from many other people that I've interviewed, including Lieutenant Colonel Greg, describes rituals, hybrid experiments, demonic activity at these military installations. So from a spiritual lens, this makes sense. Satan has always sought thrones. When he declared, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. He was not speaking of a symbolic idea, but a literal attempt to usurp dominion. When he failed to gain that dominion of the third heaven, he set up kingdoms in the second heaven and beneath the earth. See, Paul tells us in Philippians 2:10 that every knee shall bow to Christ. Those in the heavens, on earth, and under the earth. Paul's words, that's very specific. And underneath the earth. This statement is not casual. It is intentional. Speaking of things being beneath us, thrones, structures, civilizations, ancient technologies await beneath the earth's crust in a fallen world. What's even more interesting, even the Vatican acknowledges this. The Vatican has one of the most advanced observatories on the planet. Do you guys remember the name of their very advanced observatory? This observatory positioned specifically to watch the skies for the arrival of what they call their alien brothers. Do you remember the name of this telescope? And also, do you know what it's fixated on right now? Whoops, my seat went down. Yes, the Lucifer. They are looking, from what the reports have said from whistleblowers with inside their organization, they're tracking the Nibiru system. Now, we've done a teaching on that, so you'll have to reflect back on it. Jonathan Kleck did a video on this as well, which was very interesting. But they are tracking. The Vatican is awaiting. They are very interested in what is coming above. But also the Vatican has many, many, many documented expeditions in Antarctica and other secret archaeological digs. And there is ownership of these restricted archives describing hollow earth realms and fallen entities below. Literally, guys, you can find the documentation from their restricted vaults. You just need to know the correct onion IP address. Now, I'm going to be the first to say, because I was corrected on this topic, that I am not endorsing or encouraging folks to go digging around on the dark web unless you know what you're doing, unless you have the precautions in place, meaning you do not use a device that has any trace to you, not because of anything criminal, but because of the way hackers work. You do not want to be on the dark web with a laptop or a phone or a computer that has any of your information on it. Regardless if you're running a dual layer VPN with the correct browser address, doing it from a Starbucks, you don't want to expose yourself in any way.